Let me see. Seymour, lost access. Click here to reconnect.
It looks like we're live. I got a little live box in the top
But
left
it
there.
says this says it lost access. Oh, okay. So now I'm connected. All right. Now I just want to go. Hi, everybody. This is Dan Cerrucci. I'm here with Nick LaRotunda from Absecon, New Jersey. I'm a little bit further north in New Jersey. Oh, for those of you who aren't from New Jersey, like Absecon is sort of near Atlantic City. In fact, it borders Atlantic City. So pretty much everybody knows where Atlantic City is. And we're going to be talking to Nick. But first, I just want to make sure that we are on Facebook and that we are live on Facebook and Twitter. So I'm just going to connect right now and make sure we're there. I'm going to go into my page and let's see. This may take a moment, everybody. Just be patient with me. Oh, here we are. Okay. Let's see. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, why I can't find my homepage on Facebook.
Take your time. Take your time.
This is a little bit crazy. Oh, here we are. Well, I don't see us yet on Facebook.
Let me see if it pulls up on my end, Dan.
It says we're supposed to be on there.
Yeah, it's not showing up on your Facebook feed either.
Do you see it?
I do not on your end. No, if I go to your Facebook page, it's not displaying.
It's not showing.
No, it is not.
This is very, very unusual because it says up here, it says that it's connected. All right, wait. Oh, now it says that I'm live on Facebook. Okay. So now it should be on there.
All right. I'll take a look on my end here, sir.
Here we go. Yes, it's on there. So we're live on Facebook. It just took a moment. And I want to make sure we're also live on X, formerly Twitter.
Yes.
And there we are. We're live on Facebook and Twitter, everybody. So it just took a moment. It took a moment. I'm sorry. I apologize, everybody. And this is on Facebook. It's on Twitter. It's going to be on my YouTube channel. And Nick, I'm also going to put it on my blog at dancerucci.com with a lot of
Fantastic.
people read. As you know, I know you're familiar with it.
Yes.
So as soon as this chat is over, it'll go, the tape of it will go on dancerucci.com. And Nick, you can share this now simultaneously. I just want to make sure on Facebook that I have it set as public so you can share it.
I will share it as we speak.
I'm going to set it as public
Okay.
so you can share it. Edit audience and public. So now it's set as public and anybody can share it. So there it is. Sometimes it takes a few moments before we begin. But now let me recap, everybody. I'm talking to Nick LaRotunda. I had no idea when I set this up. Well, let's say I didn't think of it when I set this up, when I was going to talk with this outstanding young leader from South Jersey, that we were going to, we were going to talk about his Italian American heritage, among other things, and that I had no idea that this was going to actually happen on Columbus Day.
I know we can't get better than this, Dan.
I know, Nick. Nick, you and I have met along the campaign trail a few times, but we've never had a chance to actually engage in a conversation like this, and I've been looking forward to it. So let me begin by saying, Nick, um, you are council president of Absecon City Township Council. You are a firefighter in your local town. You're a captain. You're
Yes, I'm part of our local volunteer fire department. Then I'm also a career fireman at the Atlantic City Airport, which is nearby here in Absecon. So I only got about a 5-minute car ride to work. So it's great, and it's at a beautiful facility there. We have the tech center there and the Atlantic City Airport. So it's great.
Incredible. This is incredible. You're an EMT. You were the youngest person elected to Absecon City Council, or either appointed or elected when you were first appointed and then you were elected.
Correct. That is correct, Dan.
Youngest one to serve as council president?
That is correct. I was recently appointed council president this January when we had a new slate of candidates take over. We recently turned over control from a Democratic controlled council to being Republican controlled. When I first was on council, I was the lone Republican on council, and that's since has changed. We recently brought on 2 fellow Italians, Rich DeRose and Tommy Marone, who both won their elections last November. So I have the honor of serving with them, as well as we have a gentleman named Steve Light, who was a councilman at large, who after last year's election, and just like our Congressman Van Drew here, was fed up with the way the Democratic Party was going, and felt, he was better suited with the Republican Party. And, we're happy to have him on our team.
So he changed parties.
Yes,
switched
he did.
parties. And so what do you have now? Is it like 4-3 Republican?
So right now we have, yes, that is correct, 4-3. And then our mayor is a Democrat, and that election is up next year as well. So
and there are 2 council seats coming up this November.
This November we have 2 council seats up. That is correct.
Right, and you've got quite a ticket.
Yes,
ready.
we do. We have Christine Parker and Christine Parker and Alex Clark, both local residents here, very active in the youth sports. Alex is the ASAC president, which is our youth sports association for basketball, baseball, and soccer. Christine has also been very active in that organization as she has 2 sons of her own. So they know that we want to keep Absecon's small town charm. I was born and raised here. That's why I chose to build a new home here, serve on council, and also raise my new 7-month son here in Absecon. So
I know you have this little boy. You have this little boy Donato.
That is correct.
And he has a nice Italian name, and he's actually named after. Is it like your great grandfather?
So that's correct, Dan. So my great grandfather, who we'll touch on. So my grandfather Giuseppe, who just passed this July, unfortunately, his father was named Donato, and they were from Filiano in Italy.
Yes.
And then my grandfather named my father Donato. So Donato is named after his grandfather, my father, and my father's grandfather. So it was nice to be able to pass that name.
Is sort of just beyond Naples in the southern part of Italy.
That is correct.
Bascaglione region. Is that what they call it?
Yes, Pastalicata. Yep. So my grandfather, we'll speak to him a little bit, Dan, if we want to get into a little bit of my Italian heritage that I'm very proud of. My grandfather, like I said, was born in Filiano, Italy. He grew up kind of, taking on a lot of responsibilities as his father was always out working. So he was kind of he was the oldest child, always looked after his mother. I always hear stories of my grandfather telling me how he would go out with the mule and go pick up firewood. And he'd always have enough money to go get his mom some oranges and him a pack of cigarettes. So that was always, he was a hard worker. He was the hardest working man I know. Eventually he went on and served in the Carabinieri police force. As you know, it's very prestigious. It's the military police of Italy.
In Italy.
He was extremely honored, and that was probably one of his biggest achievements was serving his country as a carabinieri. He went on to be deployed in Sicily, where he met my grandmother in Palermo, and he served in Palermo for some time. And then eventually he decided to, live the American dream, and him and my grandmother decided to settle in South Philadelphia,
In
which is a large.
1965, they came to America.
Yep. So they had a lot of support from their family. They moved here, with no money in their pockets. They moved to South Philadelphia, which has as you know, a large Italian population.
Right.
My grandfather was a very talented carpenter, so he used that craft to provide for his family, and eventually became a master carpenter and was well respected throughout the tri-state area, building homes along Margate, Ventnor, Longport, and also building commercial establishments. He built some dorms here in Stockton University. He eventually went on to having almost 100 union employees working for him at one point. So,
Oh my
he
goodness.
definitely lived the American dream, coming here with, a fifth grade education to be able to provide. He's had 3 children, and then he also has 5 grandchildren. So, and now, and great grandchildren. So it was great. He's a fantastic person. He's always be with me. So,
Nick, this is a story that is told over and over again in the Italian American community, and you speak to almost any Italian American, and they will be able, incredibly enough, they will be able to tell you similar stories of their grandparents. My grandparents came here from Italy, all 4 of them. Okay, all came here from Italy. They will be able to tell you similar stories. It's a little bit unusual for someone as young as yourself to have a grandparent who emigrated. Usually, for someone as young as yourself, it's a great grandparent. But these stories are told over and over. Now, did your grandfather speak Italian to you?
Yeah, yes, he did. So I don't speak it as well as I understand it. It's kind of bizarre. Both
Right.
my grandmother and grandfather, speak fluent Italian. My grandma, being Sicilian, they obviously spoke a little bit more of a Sicilian dialect, which I kind of picked more up of that. My grandparents both, till this day, my grandmother is still an Italian citizen. They have a green card here. They came here legally, and are still here and worked. My grandfather was very proud of his Italian culture. My grandfather's sister, she became on and got her citizenship, and my great grandmother, my grandmom's mom, was very diligent about becoming an American citizen. Both my grandparents just didn't do it. I think they were a little bit more timid, because they didn't have too much of a formal education, but became very successful.
And when and that was also not unusual for people that did not have tremendous education. They were a little bit more reluctant.
Correct.
Now, but on your mother's side, your Italian heritage goes back a long way in the Absecon Atlantic City area, right?
That is correct. So my great grandfather, Louis DeFeo, he was born in Newark from Italian immigrants, and then they moved down to Atlantic City area and settled there. His father was a tailor. I was lucky enough to know my great grandfather, Louis.
Wow.
So yes, he was still around, when I was a child, and I vividly remember him. A lot of people say I've taken on a lot of his traits. My grandfather was very active in the Atlantic County Republicans, so kind of the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My great grandfather worked on some rail lines, the shore rail lines, and he also went on to be the sergeant at arms for the Atlantic County Courts. And he also owned a few parking lots in Atlantic City. And then he had kids of his own. He had my grandfather, I apologize, Louis DeFeo Jr., who is still with me today, who I'm very, very close with. He was also a fireman in Atlantic City. He served in the Navy. So I followed that tradition of being a fireman after my grandfather, and his brother was also Atlantic City fireman, Frank. So that's the biggest thing. Italians are all about tradition. So we'll speak about my grandfather Joe, who came here from Italy. He was a carpenter, and my father now picked up that skill, and he's a superintendent for a large company in Philadelphia, and he's building skyscrapers. So, it's all about tradition in the Italian culture, as we all know.
So all of this had a great influence on you. I mean, it really left a tremendous impression on you. I mean, did you grow up with the traditional Italian Sunday gravy dinners and everything else?
Well, yeah, we definitely had Sunday dinners, but it's sauce. We don't call it gravy, which is, I know that's a big hot topic, but we do call it sauce. As my grandfather always said, that's what they call it. They call it asas. So that's what we call it. But yes, we always had Sunday dinners. I'm blessed. My mom, like I said, Donna, her father was Italian. My grandmother on my mother's side is Irish and German. But she basically became Italian from being around Italian so much, and she cooks very good Italian meals as well. My grandmother, Bonnie. But I've been blessed because of my mom. I have a very close relationship with my mom. Just, I think, like every Italian guy does, they're very close to their mother. My mom always instilled in us tradition, making memories. We always, like you said, have Sunday dinners. Christmas Eve is always at my mom's house. We always try to celebrate anything. If it's something, the smallest things, we celebrate and get together. And still to this day, we still do that.
And it's all about familia, family.
Right. Okay. Which I actually have that tattooed here. You can't see it, but La Familia Tutta means family is everything. And I live by those words every day.
But let me ask you, Nick, did you ever feel that all of this family closeness was, let's say, restrictive or confining to you?
I don't think so. I mean, in my family, my family was very supportive. As you know, I'm very active in anything I decided to do. My family was always right there by my side, cheering me on. Sometimes they think I'm crazy, obviously, with my, being involved in politics, but, they share a lot of the same ideals that I do. And they're happy that, someone like myself or others are out there, supporting those values. And I think that's the biggest thing. Italians have values, very strong family values. And I think we're losing that in this country, unfortunately. And I think we need to try to instill that back into, our youth. I'm going to be sure to raise my son that way and hope he continues that. I think with losing those values, I think, we start to lose respect and discipline. And I think we need to continue to be a little stronger and harder on our children to strive to do better.
Well, I notice a lot of Americans, a lot of Italian Americans, younger Italian Americans, such as yourself, are going back to giving their newborn children Italian names from their Italian heritage. Let's face it, these are beautiful, beautiful names. I mean, they're nothing to be ashamed of. They're beautiful. Okay,
You're correct. Yeah, so we, like I said, we did Donato after my father and his grandfather, but it's a unique name, and it carries on our culture, so that's why we did it.
Yeah. So now, Nick, were you always interested in politics and in public affairs? Where did that all come from?
I would say so. So when I was probably probably a little early on that, I do vividly remember watching the debates with George Bush, and I couldn't tell you what age I was, probably maybe 7 or 8 years old. And I remember watching the RNC convention, and I just was kind of in awe by it. My family always was watching the news and kind of had a keen sense of conservative politics. So I kind of learned that by watching television. And then growing up, I was in high school, and funny story about my grandfather, Lou, how I kind of got involved in the Atlantic County Republican organization was my grandfather was called by a recruitment call asking if he would like to volunteer. And he said, I wouldn't, but I think my grandson might. So lo and behold, my grandfather takes me to the Republican headquarters. It was during Governor Christie's first campaign.
Okay.
I walked into the headquarters and was met by who now is my closest friend, Ron Filan, who is the Congressman Van Drew's campaign manager.
He's a political wonderkind.
So that's how
political genius.
So Ron and I met from that recruitment call, and I think that made a lasting impression on me. Ever since then, I've been very active with the Atlantic County Republicans, volunteering on, a ton of campaigns. And then later last year, I was named the executive director under Chairman Purdy. So, we have a great organization here in Atlantic County. Our Republican team is very strong. Even though our voter registration, we're outnumbered by Democrats, we seem to be able to hold on to that because, our message resonates with the Atlantic County residents. And I think it all goes because we have strong candidates that have strong values. And I think that's what you're going to start seeing a lot of, going that way, is why Democrats are starting to flip over to Republican, because, they see the family unit, they respect that, they, appreciate parents' rights. So they appreciate religious freedom. So I think it's resonating a lot more with people. And that's why we're recruiting so many new Republicans, or even getting independents to vote for us.
Right. And you mentioned you were named executive director of the Atlantic County Republican Party.
Correct.
And I just to fill people in who may not be aware, that part of New Jersey, most southern New Jersey, Atlantic County, Cape May County, even Cumberland County now, have increasingly been trending Republican and is looked upon in the state as the center of a new Republican resurgence in New Jersey. Something that is catching on. In fact, if you move up along the coast of New Jersey to Monmouth County, of course, one of the strongest Republican counties in the state, and also Republicans have been gaining ground in Burlington County, and and in Gloucester County. Okay, and we mentioned Cumberland County. These are all counties south of Trenton. So we're talking about from almost the midpoint of this fascinating little state
Yep.
on down, has been increasingly trending Republican. And we're looking upon Nick as part of that trend, part of a young vanguard of young people. And Nick, you've even had the opportunity to meet President Trump. What was that like?
I did. That was a great experience. I am blessed to have a really good relationship with Congressman Van Drew. He's been a great friend and mentor to me. And I had the opportunity to go up to a fundraiser with Congressman Van Drew at Bedminster, where I did get to meet President Trump. It was a great experience. President Trump, the congressman introduced President Trump to me, and also told the president that I was from Absecon. And as you mentioned, Absecon is right next to Atlantic City, and the president did exactly know where it was. He has some ties here. Actually, one of my aunt's businesses is located in Atlantic City, and he did a lot of business with her family through the years. So that was pretty neat to, have the president know where my small town where I represent is. But it was a really cool experience. He had, typical Trump, he asked me when I was up for re-election, and I did mention to him I am up in the presidential, year with, and I said hopefully with himself. And he did mention, you'll have no problem. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully being on the ticket with the president. So it'd be a great opportunity.
You have a significant Italian American community there in Absecon, by the way, which is a town of about 10,000 people.
That's correct. Our population is about 9,100 people. Our population is pretty good.
Everybody, people have been leaving New Jersey in droves because of the high taxes, the onerous policies of the wacko liberal Democrat governor that we have. I can't even tell you how far left he is. However, Absecon has been steadily growing in population. Okay.
Yes, we have, and we have a lot of people are looking to move closer to the shore, away from New York City, as you mentioned, with COVID and all those restrictions. So we did see some growth in our population. We have a very diverse population here. I know you mentioned if we have a large Italian, it is very diverse. We don't have a large, I would say, population of Italians. I mean, it's kind of spread out, like somewhere, if you would say Hamilton here in Atlantic County has a very dense Italian population. So
Yes.
we have a very diverse population, and it's rapidly growing. We're positioned very closely, like you said, to Atlantic City. Like I said, where I work at the Atlantic City Airport, there's a lot of jobs out there at the FAA Tech Center. So, there's a lot of growth going on in this area, and under the leadership of Senator Palestina, a fellow Italian, there's a lot of, growth potentials, continuing to happen. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's the state senator in Palestina. And then I have to mention, while we're on this and we're talking about this part of the state, even in Atlantic City, we have a Republican councilman, our good friend Jesse
Yes.
Kurtz.
That is correct. Jesse is a great friend of mine. When I first got involved in the Atlantic County Republicans, I did meet Jesse and still have a really good relationship with him. And if I ever need help with anything, or lean on him with a question, he was always there. He was in the reverse shoes that I was in. He was the sole, actually the same shoes I was in, sole Republican on council, just like I was a few years back. So it was nice to be able to talk with him and about strategizing and how we can, make an impact, even though we're going against, a full Democrat council.
Did you ever have a person ask you, Nick, what's a nice young person like you doing in a messy business like politics?
I get that question asked a lot, and thank God for my wife who allows me to do this. Like I said, I was involved in this since high school. It's just not that it's a passion of mine. I've always been a person that wants to help people and serve people. A little bit more of my background, I did go to school for hospitality. I have a bachelor's in hospitality and tourism management. I did work in the casinos here in Atlantic City for a long time. And I always thought that was going to be my career path, being a casino executive, because I love being around people. I love to help people. I like to, see people have a good time. And I worked there for a long time. And then I did get my dream job at the Atlantic City International Airport, becoming a firefighter. As well as being a firefighter, I'm a big aviation enthusiast. I'm working on getting my pilot's license. So that was a dream come true, to be able to follow my grandfather's footsteps as a fireman. And serve at the airport. So it was a really good opportunity. And then obviously life happened, so I wasn't able to work both jobs. So I decided to just continue my career as a firefighter, which ultimately opened up some more opportunities for me to run for council and things like that.
So now your wife, you haven't been married. How long have you been married?
We were married. This December will be 2 years.
Okay.
December, yep.
And you got right started with, then you built your house, and then you had a child. I know you still have that little dog, Biscotti.
Yes, we do. Biscotti is still with us. He's the best. Yep. So obviously he's named after the cookie. He looks just like, I remember when we went to go adopt him, my sister said, I think you should name him Biscotti. So I said, that's a really good fit. He's real lanky. He's tan. So my mom's dog is named Cannoli. So it's pretty fitting.
There's an Italian connection everywhere. Yes. I love it. And it's not like you have enough to do with, your various jobs, the house, the relatively new marriage, new home.
Well, like I said, Dan, I think that really goes back to, you bring about your upbringing. I think, being blessed with having, I was able to have all four of my grandparents for a long time. And growing up in a strong Italian family, you always had a support system. So to this day, if I need help, I can still have my grandma come assist in watching my son, which is great. But it also instills you to do a lot. I do have a lot on my plate, and I'm just kind of one of those people. I like to operate under pressure. I feel like that's I get things done that way. So I do have a lot on my plate, but it's probably why I don't have much hair on my head, but I enjoy it. Try to make
it does. No, being Italian American does come with a built-in support system. Okay, but as we know, Nick, those people that are part of the support system, they do reserve the right to advise you on almost every aspect of your life, don't they?
That is correct, and they won't be scared to tell you how they feel.
They're not shy.
No.
Do you have the traditional Christmas Eve dinner of the 7 fishes?
So that's the one thing we don't actually. So funny story, as I said, my mom always does Christmas Eve. Right. My mom growing up, she just was not a big person who ate fish too much. You
Okay.
still go for shrimp cocktail and things like that, or crab, but typically we have that. Typically we go to mass here in Absecon at St. Elizabeth, and then we'll go back to my mom's. Typically, Christmas Day we'll do a big dinner, and usually some type of pasta is involved.
So you really make a bigger event of Christmas Day.
I would say so. More of a formal dinner, I would say. Kind of
Yeah.
Christmas Eve is kind of more of a, I would say, more of a party. People
Okay.
are drinking some wine, having a bunch of, snacks and appetizers and some sandwiches. But definitely Christmas Day is when we typically do a bigger dinner, and
I
which
always
I'm
say
hoping to do this year.
I always say that the Italian family, the big Italian family dinners, is like sort of like a grand opera.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of drama
There's
involved.
always drama in Italian family. You know what? Sometimes, you see through it, but it makes you stronger. Sometimes, you'll get in a really bad argument with your brother or sister, and the next day, or a couple minutes later, you're hugging and kissing. But it makes us all stronger. So it's all good.
There's a lot of emotion involved with it.
Oh,
With these
100%.
occasions,
Italians are very emotional. If you don't know,
especially on the holiday occasions.
yes,
There's a lot of emotion involved in it, and there's a lot of feeling that's generated. Of course, you remember the people who aren't there during the holidays. These people are always with you
absolutely,
because growing up Italian brings with it such an abundance of love, unconditional love. Hmm?
correct,
And
absolutely,
I always say that that kind of love just goes on and on. It doesn't end. So I know when we have, you know, important holiday family gatherings, the members of the family who have passed on they're still there with us. They're
correct. And that's, as like I said, I reference back to my mom. It's the truth. It's always about building memories, and you always will have them about your loved ones who are no longer here. Like to this day, I can think of a ton of memories about my grandfather who recently passed. I was very close with one of my uncles who passed a few years ago, and you always have those memories, and they always feel with you. And when you're at the dinner table, you're all reminiscent about the funny stories, about your loved one, and it makes it feel like they're still there. So it's great to reminisce.
Now, have you journeyed back to Italy yet, Nick?
So I have funny story. I have not yet. I was supposed to go, Dan, during COVID, and that's where I was hoping to be able to propose to my wife. But unfortunately,
Well,
COVID struck. We were supposed to go March of that year, or actually April. March it got canceled, and we weren't able to go. So we are hoping to go back soon. I do have a great aunt there. My grandfather's sister still lives there. I have two cousins that I'm pretty active with on Facebook. So I would love to get back there and be able to see it firsthand.
so you are in communication with some of your
Yeah,
relatives in Italy.
yeah, I do. Like I said, so funny story. My grandfather and my grandmother, on my dad's side, the Italian ones, they were married to two brothers were married to two sisters. So
Well,
they both came over here. My grandfather's sister stayed in Italy. She was the youngest, and she still lives there today. She was a nurse, and she still lives in Filiano.
well, that's a familiar story. My mother um, was born here. After her mother came over here, she was born here, but her sister remained in Italy.
Yep.
Now, her sister was, uh, I guess she was a teenager at the time. I think she was like about 16, 17, something like that. And so my grandmother came over thinking that she would not have any more children. She left this daughter of hers with her mother in Italy. So my grandmother came over here, and lo and behold, it wasn't planned, but my mother was born here. And my aunt, her sister, decided to stay in Italy. She met somebody who she married, and she stayed in Italy. So my mother, for like, oh, I'm going to say 50 years, did not see her sister. And then she finally went back to Italy, and for the first time met her sister. Can you imagine?
That's amazing. That is amazing.
It was just an incredible, incredible story. But of course, my parents lived through the Depression and the war, and because
Sure.
by the time they were able to go back to Italy, of course, my aunt was quite old then. But when my mother went back and she met her sister, and I said to my mother, "What was it like?" And she said, "Well, it was like I saw my mother all over again. Like my mother, who I hadn't seen in so many years, was alive and there." And if you can imagine the emotion that my mother
I can only
had
imagine.
when she finally met her sister. But these family, many people don't understand, and it wasn't just among Italian Americans, it was among many ethnic groups coming to America. Oftentimes, the families were separated.
Yes.
Some parts of the family decided to come, other parts decided to stay. And that my grandmother left her daughter there in Italy with her mother, like I said, who didn't want this child to leave. She didn't want her grandchild to leave. They were very close. They were very attached, and so she never came over here. It's just remarkable stories, and these people were. I really, frankly, don't know how they did it, Nick.
I really, I'm with you on that, Dan. Like I said, my grandfather, he left a beautiful life in Italy to come here to try to provide better for his future children. And I find that commendable, knowing he loved his job being a police officer in Italy, lived in, a beautiful area, to come here to move to South Philadelphia with almost nothing in his pocket, and to be able to create, an amazing family, a successful business, all with not too much of a support system, because his family was still in Italy. So it's pretty cool.
It is, and so let us continue as we bring this little chat to a close. Let us continue on this Columbus Day, which just to point out, we're in the middle of Italian American Heritage Month. I've been spotlighting a different famous Italian American every day on my
I've been
blog.
following.
Yes, at dancerucci.com. Today I'm spotlighting the president and CEO of one of the platforms we're on tonight. The president and CEO of X, formerly Twitter, is now Linda Yaccarino, a very proud Italian American. And look at the heights. Look at the heights that we have reached.
Sure.
At tremendous heights. At one point, we had two Italian Americans on the United States Supreme Court. We had an Italian American Speaker of the House. But not just in politics, which is where you are, but in every walk of life, in every possible entertainment, sports, law enforcement, the law, public service, business. I mean, every walk of life, the medical profession. We can point to Dr. Fauci and so many others. Every possible field that you could think of, that Italian Americans have excelled. And so for me, that's what Columbus Day is all about. It's a day for Italian Americans and for our heritage. So much more than just Columbus, although I do not disparage him. But it's so much bigger than that, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. And I think you were just talking about, so many of those remarkable Italians who became successful. And I think it's all because of, their strong work ethic that they, got by growing up in a Italian family. There was a lot of encouragement, a lot of, hard times and good times, but, they got through it, and they always worked hard to provide for, their family. So, I think that really speaks for itself.
And a lot of strong values and deep moral beliefs.
Correct. And there's strong faith. I mean, let's face it, Italians are, most of us are devout Catholics. And, we have a respect for, God, and, we thank him for, allowing us to be able to have what we have. And we never forget that. So I think that's a big thing too.
Yes. And also, in addition to all of that, with our faith, And the Italians, of course, are famous for calling upon all the saints. We have all these saints that
We
we're
do.
devoted to. Almost every Italian American has their own personal saint that they're
Yes.
devoted to. I know my middle name is Anthony, so I'm devoted to Saint Anthony. Okay,
Okay.
so we have that if we can't go straight to the top, we could use an intermediary and go through one of the saints.
That's right. A
Not to,
Padre Pio is my saint. I actually have a tattoo of him, and I have a
I,
strong belief in his his powers, and he was the healing saint. And anytime I know somebody's sick, I always try to say a prayer to Padre Pio. Hopefully, he will heal them. So
and there's a shrine to Padre Pio down in
there
South
is in Atlantic County, yes, in Buna. That's beautiful, beautiful shrine.
in Atlantic County.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, folks, when you get a chance, when you're passing, on your way to Atlantic City, you're passing through Absecon, you don't even realize it. So now I hope you think about it. You think about Nick LaRotunda, who's there, and the wonderful family that he has.
Thank
Maybe
you,
you'll
Dan.
even stop for a while in Absecon. Nick is always promoting the businesses and restaurants and everything there. He's a tremendous promoter of the business.
Absolutely. So speaking of fellow Italians, there's two Absecon. We only have 3 liquor licenses in town. So 2 of the bars that I do frequent often are owned by Italian families. We have Black Cat, which you can't miss when you're coming on Route 30. The Falvine family, who have a long family ties here in the Absecon and Atlantic County area, and then also Raffici's, which John and his wife Joanne. John is an immigrant from Italy. So John is, a recent immigrant, and he's got a large family here in Absecon as well. So if you're ever in Absecon, make sure you stop at one of those establishments.
And you may run into Nick. You
You
see
may
him
run
because
into me. Yes.
I noticed from your Facebook page, Nick, you are everywhere. You are. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it, but you show
Like I
up.
said, I'm very lucky for my wife who supports me and allows me to, do all the stuff that I, do. I always have a schedule. Sometimes just with everything going on, I feel like I might have told her that I have something to go to, but I must have forgotten. And then I tell her, oh, I have to be here at 6 o'clock. And she goes, you didn't tell me that. But we always get through it, and I'm blessed. So
Unbelievable, wonderful, just a wonderful, wonderful stories and a wonderful chat, Nick. Nick
well, thank you.
LaRotunda.
It was an honor to be on here, especially on Columbus Day. I appreciate the
Oh,
opportunity, Dan, and look
thank
forward
you.
to seeing you soon.
Thank you. This is live on Facebook and Twitter. Nick is going to share it. It's
Absolutely.
also on my YouTube channel. And right after this is over, it's going up at dancerucci.com, and I will be promoting it. I'm sure it's going to have more views. Nick, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. And buonanotte.
Buonanotte. Good night.
Good night, Dan.